For what, I'm sorry?
Picking up the
Pick up
trash, the
trash.
kids who wanna pick up the
Yes.
trash. They got that letter from
There's
that
this letter to
young
woman.
woman.
I just wonder why we're,
Do we need a resolution
resolution
for
at all,
that?
right, at all. I mean, she just
Can't
wants,
people just go pick up trash if they want to?
Yes.
I mean, I could see if we're using public
But
facilities
is this a
to
sanctioned
do
event
it.
or event that's sponsored by somebody or something? Could that be-
It's attached to
The Rotaract Club.
I don't see why we need to pass a resolution for volunteers to, pick up trash.
That's what I was wondering.
Right.
So just, we don't
Right.
need to do it?
No, we don't need to pass a resolution. What I would do is just acknowledge the letter
Okay.
and go from there.
Okay, so I should acknowledge it
Yes.
on the actual meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then we have the addition to fire department rules. We call for a special meeting on March the 25th, 2019. That's to present the budget.
Do you have a time?
6:30, I'm sorry.
Okay. Could that be added to the resolution then that we have here?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And then we have the resolution calling for a public hearing for the property tax cap. As every year, we pass this resolution just to be ready if needs be.
Can we do that after?
Pardon me?
Can we do that after? the meeting?
No, we don't usually do it after the budget, it's like during,
No, because we don't have enough time.
Right, there's a deadline for
Deadline.
that. So what we do is we pass the resolution and then hopefully we don't need it.
need it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the public hearing, for the date of the public hearing,
That's in the resolution, isn't it?
Well, we
It's-
left it out.
we don't
so
have it in there, that's
discuss
what-
it. We have to come up with it. It should be, I think it should be April 1st.
April 1st is fine,
Okay.
yeah.
April 1st.
Because the thing is, as Dan explained, between calling for a special hearing, that's today. But no, that's the tax cap. We don't have to call for special.
No,
We call for a special, for a public hearing, but we
Right.
don't have to discuss anything.
that's correct.
Okay, so we can have it definitely for the 1st.
We can, okay.
Yes.
So on the first day of April, okay.
And also from the 25th, when the board and the people are going to, be introduced to the new budget, until the 1st, nothing can change in the budget.
That's correct.
Say that again?
Once, and part of the memo I did for you guys about the public hearings, the budget is different than a local law in that once it's proposed, on the 25th, it can't be changed before the public hearing on the 1st. Okay, it can be changed after that without the need for an additional hearing, but we can't change it because the idea is that the public has to be heard on what they've been presented.
You're talking the mayor's proposed budget? Can't
Yes,
be
the
changed?
the tentative budget. Once the mayor presents it to the clerk, okay, and the clerk presents it to the board, and at the same time, it's published. That's on the 25th, all right? No changes can be made between the 25th and the 1st when we have our public hearing on the budget.
Because otherwise, the people don't know what to, if you make changes, then they have a different budget.
So
they-
we can do our trustees' budget, I guess, hearings or meetings for this can start in April then, is what you're saying?
Right, yes.
Okay, April.
And you guys can, and the thing of it is, I know your budget process, we kind of go through the budget and say, okay, we're gonna change this, change that. You could still have the meetings, okay, theoretically, but you couldn't make changes to the tentative budget before the public hearing, after the presentation.
It's only a week. I think
It's only a week.
It'll be fine.
You understand?
So when's the first date we can start reviewing, the trustees reviewing the budget?
Making changes, the 2nd of April.
Second?
Right after the hearing, and then there's no need for a second public hearing, okay, for the changes. The idea is that the public has to be heard, and then you can consider those comments along with whatever changes you make. And there's no need for a second hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
In regards to the budget review for the trustees, last year we did quite a few. Would the board be willing to do like the same thing. I was kind of thinking, I was looking at the month of April, if we do Tuesdays and Thursdays, whether everybody can or cannot meet, that gives us 9 dates to review it.
I'm going to say something. The budget this year is extremely simple, and I'm going to explain why. The why is we did a lot of things over the last 3 years. We have many projects going on. So this budget is going to be, you're going to find a very, very simple budget, which it's almost done. And the reason that we are a bit late is because Jim was sick, obviously. So,
Well, I would still propose that even if we don't use 9 dates to schedule 9 dates, we could use 2 and be done in 2. But if we're not, schedule 9 Tuesday, Thursdays.
Yeah, there's no harm in that.
I mean, if we don't go all 9 dates, we don't go all 9 dates, but just kind of, that way we can put it in our calendars tentatively.
I'm available on 9 days, but I don't see the need for that many meetings, you know, in light of last year's experience.
Right.
So I think, you know, all of us have been through the budget process at least once, and so we have some familiarity with it and the structure of the village that we did not have last year. Therefore, I would expect that we should be able to go through it at a much more rapid pace this year than last.
Okay, what are some other
Well, we
options?
have a
then?
meeting, special meeting coming up on this next Monday, and if we're gonna receive the budget on Wednesday, we could start looking at it, and if it looks like you're gonna need some more time, we could discuss the dates on Monday. Because we could, there's other business that we could propose on Monday, and that gives us ample time.
you will have the preliminary budget by Wednesday.
What's that?
You will have the preliminary
We will,
budget by
yeah.
Wednesday,
We'll
by the
have it
20th.
We still
By
would like to put
Wednesday, and
dates
then,
in
then
the
we can look at
calendar
it,
if we use them or not.
and if it looks like, you know, we might need some dates, then we could, on Monday, we could schedule those dates, and, if we have to, but, I mean,
After we've had a chance to look through it, you mean?
yeah, we got a weekend to look at, kind of
Okay,
look
I'm
through
just
it, and
saying,
then schedule the dates on Monday, if we feel we need any.
all right, that's fine, whatever the board's pleasure is, I just made a suggestion, that's all. That's all it was.
Okay, thank you. Now, we have the resolution to hire Chris Serma as full-time chief operator at the water filtration plant. And Mr. Serma's right here. Everybody okay with that? We have a resolution for the new taxi law.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Does that also include like Uber and Lyft and those
Yes.
kinds of?
Yes, it would.
Okay,
It's basically anybody that is giving somebody a ride for money.
okay, so those are just considered taxi services?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's in the definitions, basically, it is all encompassing, because we were thinking in the committee about the Uber issue.
Okay.
Does anybody else has anything else about the taxi law before we call for a public hearing?
Is this, we had a taxi law
We did
currently,
not.
not at all?
No,
Not
not at all.
Okay,
This is a brand-new code section.
okay.
Because if you're okay with it, we can call for a public hearing. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes? Okay. So you want to call for a public hearing at the first? Or
Yeah, the public hearing will be on the first.
The
Now,
first.
when we discussed this, the hearing time on Friday, we had said 7:45, but I think there was some confusion because with the workshop starting at 6:30 instead of 7:30, which was a typo. I would say start the public hearing at 6:45 instead of 7:45. Otherwise, we're going to be in the middle of our meeting.
So you want the public hearing in the workshop?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be in the meeting, it doesn't have to be in the workshop, you can pick any time you want. I was just, my suggestion, we talked about 7:45, I would just suggest 6:45 because we start the
I
workshop at
have no
6:30.
problem if everybody's okay with that.
Everybody's,
Sure. Earlier is better.
otherwise, you know, we're in the middle of
I'd
our
rather do
meeting
it
and all of a
earlier.
sudden 7:45, let's have a hearing, you know?
Right.
Okay, so you want to change that
You
time? for-
Make it 6:45?
Okay,
That's just a suggestion, your pleasure.
it's okay with me.
Okay.
You're gonna tie in the other law too?
Yes.
And then we have the resolution for introduction to electric code. Is everybody okay with that?
I have a question about the electric quote. Section 129-6, A1. It gives a date of 2016, and I think that should be 2019 to be grammatically correct.
Sorry, I lost his, what did you say?
What's the section again, trustee Barris?
Section 129-6, A1.
Starting year 2016.
I'm out of.
2019?
Should be 2001.
The Village Fredonia Board of Electric Examiners will adopt new of Class 1 and a new examination policy starting in the year 2019 probably. Is that correct, or 2020?
I'm assuming 19, but let's. Did you find it?
No.
Here,
Yeah, no, it should be that page. One, right there.
Okay.
so, is it 2019, is that?
Sure, that's what Chris did. 2016. Chris will be here. For the record, the electrical board sent this over with the date of 2016. I'm not exactly sure. Dr. Barris would seem correct, but what I would suggest is let's introduce it tonight, and then I will get a hold of Christine tomorrow and see if that's supposed to be 19 or if it's properly 2016, and then we can amend it before we publish it. If that's just a typo, that's no big deal.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Roger?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a question about the identity of the members of the Board of Electrical Examiners. Who are they?
Well, Christine is the chair.
Christine
And-
Decker?
No, Dean, D-E-A-N.
Canty is one. Paschal is another, Ron Paschal Senior is another one. And Mike, I can't think of Mike's last name, but he's from Seymour. Lives up on Seymour. Is the next one. The chief is on the electrical board, and I just look pretty there. I'm not a voting member, the chief is, and those other guys are members.
Chief, you?
Yeah,
Yeah, we have more chiefs than one.
Chief Walker, I'm sorry.
Chief Walker, yes, great, thank you. I can give you the names tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Okay. Please send me the names. Send me the names, email them, so I can give them Dr. Barnes tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. Everything else all right with the electrical code? And finally, you have the appointment, so we're still calling for the 1st of April for that?
Yes.
And finally, we have the appointment of full-time firefighter.
Ryan, does this firefighter replace Dave?
Yes. David's last day is the 31st of March.
Are you keeping the other one on?
The other one is wishing to stay on part-time as he took a full-time job with City Jameson last Monday.
Did he start? He has
Starts
started.
next Monday.
Right.
Is there any way, and contractually, we can put a clause in that if we hire somebody and we pay for their training, that we require them to either stay a certain number of years, or if they choose to leave, deemed to pay it back?
No.
We discussed that too.
It'd have to be a negotiated item with the union.
So it'd be like, it'd have to be an MOA? I mean, it's not impossible.
It is practically impossible,
How come?
okay? Because slavery is illegal, so you can't make them stay when they want to go. This is a common problem from all municipalities. You train somebody, whether it's a fireman or a water treatment plant operator or whatever, you pay for their training and then they leave. Generally speaking, there's nothing you can do about it. There are some municipalities that put in a clause where, after negotiation with the union, like you're saying, where if we pay for your training and you don't stay a certain amount of time, then there's a reimbursement. You basically owe the village money for your training, but that gets very hairy. I mean, this is a common problem all over the place, and basically you train somebody and they can go where they want to.
It's a very common problem with us.
Well, and I would wonder why the state of New York does it with the Excelsior scholarships. They give people scholarships, and you have to stay 4 years within the state.
Sure, and JAG does the same thing. You have to work there so many years and we'll pay for your schooling. It's kind of a carrot and a stick thing. But with this particular provision, there really isn't anything we can do to stop them.
That's,
I mean, we can't have anybody who is not trained, so we have to train them.
what was the cost of this that we just lost, just roughly?
Wages for 40 hours a week for 14 weeks. Several $1,000.
Probably about 20 grand, I probably would assume, 15 to 20,000.
I would probably, in the neighborhood, 10 to 12.
It's very unfortunate then that this happens.
That is.
But he's staying part-time, so at least we're using some of this. All right, and then for new business, we go to the Justice Report for the month of February 2019. We have a request from Festival Fredonia to hold Fredonia Italian Heritage Festival. A request from Jamie Rock to hold the History Days on Friday, July the 12th, and Saturday, July the 13th, 2019. We have the Community Cleanup Day. And this is the second yearly. Last year it was a big success, and I really want to thank the two officers, Michael Hodkin and Ben Kravitz, for organizing this and working with the kids. Very, very good effort. Thank you. And then we have a request from Partners in Kind to deliver benches to Barker Street Playground and Russell Joy Park. Anybody?
The Barker Street Playground is under the jurisdiction of the town of Pomfret
Correct.
exclusively, whereas Russell J. Park has a shared jurisdiction between the village and the town.
So they should present this to the town board as well.
Town council, yes.
They probably don't realize that.
They will.
Well, so
Yes.
I would imagine maybe we'll be hearing from them, possibly.
Possibly.
Can I ask generally on these new business items, does this require votes from the village board?
Does this require a vote by the village board?
No, I don't believe so.
They're going to deliver benches and install them.
We could do that orally right now if you'd like to.
Okay, so we should have a resolution accepting the donation, and we can do it during the meeting, right?
Yes, you can do it during the meeting with an oral resolution, just a resolution accepting the donation of the benches.
We have, 6 items here, though. Would we have to do that on each one of those items? Under new business?
What are the
No, I
6
think-
items?
Just talking about, he meant just the park benches, the
I was
acceptance.
referring to new business in general. So,
Oh, new business in
is
general.
this, are
Well,
we just being
usually-
informed about it, or?
Usually new business is to start the discussion and go to the next meeting to have the resolution if need be. Something
Okay.
that the board is not acquainted with before, from before.
Yes.
So we could either do that this evening, or it could wait till next meeting.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no rush on it.
I mean, that's why I put it there
Right.
for the next meeting practically, but that's.
Sure. I mean, with something simple like that, you guys could do an oral resolution this evening, but if you want something in writing, we'd be happy to do that up for the next meeting.
Everybody okay with that?
Doing which one?
We can do the next meeting
We'll put it in the next meeting then.
to keep it,
Okay.
proper. And then we have the Northern Chautauqua Pickleball Club LLC letter from Mike Ferguson, thanking us. That's, I think they donated money in the past, and they are doing it again, so. That we're gonna have a resolution next time too. All right, and then we go to all business, excuse me, sexual harassment.
Sorry.
Anyone?
Are we going to have a resolution for that? And when?
Any comments on them?
Next time, first of all, you have to discuss it, make sure you understand when we are, and if the board is okay with it.
Thought he did a pretty good job of putting it together, so.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, Chief Walker did an excellent job. He's done a lot of work on it.
Yeah, I read through it. I think it was, did a good job, I thought.
So is this a village-wide? Okay, not just for the fire department, because I think that violence in the workplace thing was, it said fire department, or are these for all village-wide?
Ignore what you got last week, just look at this one. This
Okay.
is village, I'm working on village-wide.
Village-wide.
Yes.
Because that's probably how we should, I mean, each department could have their own, but we should be covered under a village policy, I would think, covers all departments, and that's what we're doing here.
That's what it says.
And also Ryan was, offered to go and do the training and do the actual presentation to his department, which is really good. We thank you for that.
It has to be completed by the 19th of October, or October of 2019, and then refreshed annually now.
So you'll be doing a presentation annually then, so for each department? Thank you.
I put a PowerPoint presentation together and based off of some of the stuff that the state has. It has to include some interactive role plays as well, and it's all set to go. So.
Do all the village employees have to, is there like a right-to-know day where you have to go over all these policies once a year with the employees?
Probably will end up being that way. This policy here is anyone who works for, volunteers for, full-time, part-time trustees.
Interns, internships, everything.
Everything from, parks and the kids in the summertime for the parks and all that stuff that should be covered under this.
I just didn't know if we had to have like an in-service day, all the employees would have an in-service day to be,
As being flexible as I can with them, yes.
I don't think it's gonna take a whole day.
No, but as the state keeps adding more and more things that are requirements, it'll build up.
Escalate.
Like, I have tied in with the end of this is some workplace violence that kind of fits in with it well, so it'll take two birds with one stone there. And then, for instance, fire department has like 8 hours of additional stuff that OSHA requires. Tony's got things up there that they bring in for when you have a training day as well, so. Yes. tie it all in together into one. But with the flexibility, we're looking at covering, you know, different shifts and different organizations within the village and
I failed to find a difference between workplace violence and sexual harassment. It's a doctor of philosophy with a major in psychology.
What's much
Isn't all workplace violence sexual harassment of one form or another?
yes.
Okay, so why we don't need two policies then? So my thought is the sexual harassment policy encompasses everything, as we have it presented to us.
The state actually has a whole separate portion of workplace violence. It's in addition to.
That's true, but I think I would say the same thing to a state official. So I've dealt with state officials in the past, and I'm not sure they appreciate my point. So
But until then, we have to deal with what the state puts out for us.
I don't see that at all. So I think the trustees are people selected by the voters to make independent judgments. So,
It's up to the board as a whole to adopt the policy, so I can only do what.
so and we could discuss it in the state judicial system if necessary. So,
I mean, sexual harassment is definitely a type of workplace violence, but there are other types that are not the same.
I don't appreciate that at all.
No?
So,
Like pushing, bullying.
yeah, I think that is homosexual violence. So, where the genders are the same.
All right. So what are you proposing?
I'm proposing that we accept the sexual harassment policy as encompassing all types of workplace violence. We don't need a separate workplace violence procedure.
Ryan, would we be, not forced, but kind of compelled by OSHA, NIOSH, PESH to do certain things? I mean, I don't know what that would mean to go against that and say, let's not have a policy.
You could incorporate both into one.
Right, but there are specific federal and state requirements. You must have a workplace violence policy under OSHA, like you said, and you must have, under New York state law now, the sexual harassment policy. The state's been very specific, and from a legal perspective, I would advise the board to adopt them as Chief Walker has proposed, because he very closely mirrored exactly what the state requires of us. In a perfect world, we could, make up our own rules, but right now, I would strongly advise this board to adopt two separate policies, because that's the way the state and the federal government break them out.
Are we, do we need to adopt a workplace violence
I believe we
policy?
have a workplace violence
We have,
policy
yeah,
there,
okay,
yes.
so
We don't
it's
have a
adopted.
sexual harassment policy.
Okay, so
that
this is in addition to
Right.
that.
We don't have a sexual harassment policy that, at this time, that is in compliance with the state, the new state code.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chief Walker said, we're required to implement one and train on the sexual harassment policy by October. So basically, we're in good shape, and really,
Just
Chief
adding-
Walker's been fantastic with this.
Adding that to what we currently have, and.
Right,
so
we
we're-
would adopt it as a policy,
That's good.
across the board.
It seems to be simple enough to
Mhm.
deal with.
Is the board okay with that?
No?
I am.
I am.
I appreciate that. Noted.
Fine with the way it's presented.
Thank you, Ryan, for all your work.
All right, thank you.
Very helpful.
Okay. For open discussion, I have two things. First, I know everybody received the letter from the County Department of Health regarding the request from the North Staco County Water District, the need for interconnects for different reasons. And I don't know if we had the time to read it and, think about it, but it's definitely something that we need to discuss before we have a meeting with the North County Water District Board and the county.
What date are you proposing?
It's going to be up to the board. I would like to discuss it thoroughly in the next meeting, if you're not ready now, and
I'm
then-
ready now.
We have a lot of stuff on the next meeting agenda.
Okay. Are you ready now?
Maybe we should, I don't know, maybe we should, I'm just putting that out there. We got a lot of stuff going on.
So you want to schedule a meeting?
Well,
When is the following meeting?
April 1st.
That's the meeting that's getting jammed up, so we would be.
That's going to be very, very,
April the 15th, yes,
that's going to be a very, very busy meeting, so.
because we've already had 3 public hearings on the 1st, so probably the 15th.
So the 15th? Yeah.
15th?
Okay.
Tax day.
Oh.
Anne-Marie, can you please make a note? Yeah. So the 15th is going to be the discussion and not the meeting, correct? Discussion in this board.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you want to discuss some of it tonight. I mean, we can also, you haven't reviewed it, okay. 15th then.
I guess nobody else is ready, that's fine. If not ready, so.
Dr. Ballas?
I've reviewed the materials. It's familiar, I think, to all of us.
Yeah, no, I
So-
understand that. I'm trying to start a discussion here as
So
to.
there's a question about 2 sources, and when we had a meeting a year ago, we were talking about 2 separate pipelines, rather than, this document seems to make the point that the reservoir is one source, and then we have to have another source, which presumably would be the Dunkert pumping station. So,
Correct.
so, my question is, would Attorney Guard see the discussion in terms of the necessity for 2 separate pipelines or 2 separate sources? So,
I would see the discussion as separate sources. Separate pipelines would be hugely cost prohibitive.
well, if you're having separate sources, we're going to have separate pipelines. So, and the discussion a year ago was we have the pipeline on Route 20, and then there's another pipeline on Route 60, and these pipelines already exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question is, does the hospital has to have 2 separate inlets to each of the Route 60 line and the Route 20 line? So that was the way it was presented to us a year ago, when we were talking about the Pomfret location as opposed to the Village of Fredonia location. So this seems to be a twist on in this document that we have received this week.
The latest that I've seen with the hospital plans didn't have specifics for the water line. I would throw that over to Mr. LaBarbera over there. Have you seen anything that's got specific pipe?
No, it was
plans?
just
I
enough
haven't seen
for Chris to review and for our sewer to review. And they both came back with adequate facilities to operate that hospital.
I think the whole point is, if we have a problem with the reservoir, have like a drought,
Right.
to be able to supply the hospital, of course, and all the village residents with clean water. And that's the reason of interconnect. And that's the main reasons for interconnect, and also they referring to low pressure and some other things. But the main thing is, if something happens to our reservoir, whatever that may be, the hospital and the people of the village are not left without a source of clean water.
So yeah, you're talking not two different connections to the hospital, you're talking two different sources, a redundant
Exactly.
source. And
That's
currently, we have the interconnect at Vineyard Drive, which is being upgraded.
Correct.
There is a connection that's not connected yet on Route 20 with the North County Water District with their line, and we have our North County
North
water
County
line that goes out
District,
Route
yeah.
20. I think the only addition to the equation here is another connection possibly that they would like to make on Route 20 on the Pomfret Sheridan line. I believe it would be on Route 20 according to the map.
Yeah,
So-
that it was discussed a few months ago, if you remember, you were there. to
So there would
discuss.
be two different possibilities. You could, I mean, if an emergency need either way could be connected to the North County Water District connections on 20, or we could still provide water to the city of Dunkirk and vice versa through our connection on Vineyard Drive.
Vineyard Drive is being significantly increased with the upgrades that we're doing. That's not really reflected,
Vineyard
it's not
Drive-
really reflected in here.
No, but the Vineyard Drive is, I think the point of that letter is to connect the village with the North County Water District and not the city of Dunkirk. And the Vineyard Drive is specifically with the city of Dunkirk.
Right, that's
I think
another,
the point of that letter is to connect us with the North County Water District.
right, which is
specifically.
another thing in its own, because we have a contract with the city of Dunkirk, with the one on, by Main Street there, Main Street Extension on Vineyard Drive. And if we get a contract with North County Water District, it's going to be a substantial increase in cost. Well, we don't know that for sure, but I mean.
I would suggest, I would recommend that we do have this meeting with North County Water District. I don't see any reason
I
not to.
think we should have it.
Because I think that's the responsible thing to do.
Mhm.
Is a new district, I would recommend that we have this meeting and discussion with them.
Sure. I mean,
The board is okay.
So at this point, do we need to have another meeting to have more discussion, or do you just want to come up with questions that we can bring to the meeting with the North County Water District Board or whomever it was with?
I mean, it's not very complicated.
No, I
so-
mean,
No,
do
it's
we have
not.
to have a whole nother meeting to discuss this? If you, I mean,
If you give me some dates, I can email them to, actually, you can look at your schedules and email Anne Marie, so we can,
You want a separate date from a regular meeting, is what you're saying?
that's right, yeah.
And that would be held here?
Well, we'll talk with them and see, certainly we're willing to invite them
So
here.
that would be like a special meeting then, held as a special meeting? Because
Is that
if
gonna
you're
be a
asking the
special
board
meeting,
to,
or-
I mean, if you're asking the whole board to convene to
yeah.
listen to them, or it's a special meeting, that should be open to the public.
Right, it would be
Yeah,
a
so,
public
yeah,
meeting, that's
okay.
correct.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we could contact people from North County, and if they would like to come to like a workshop, so we could all discuss it, we could have it at a regular workshop, or we could do an alternate,
That's-
you know.
I mean,
Well, that's
meeting
what
date.
I
I'm
was
saying,
thinking.
that's
Yeah,
what I'm
I mean,
saying.
we could do
think this-
whatever.
And that's what
Look
I'm
at our
saying.
schedule, our regular dates, and have them come to a workshop would be the optimal thing, I think.
would a workshop on the 15th then be reasonable?
Well, if they can come,
If they could.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that will be fine.
Why not,
Seems
right?
far enough in advance,
well.
but if that's possible.
That's, yeah, I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea. Sure.
Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah,
Yes?
okay. There you go.
Yes.
I haven't seen this document, but a year ago I saw a preliminary thought. Is this where they want to come down Roberts Road?
That's one of the options, yes.
They were a few up at that time.
Yeah, that's one of the options.
Is there an option for Central Avenue?
There is an option for Central Avenue. I'm not sure if they're still entertaining that option, because a while ago when I discussed it with them, Actually, I didn't discuss it with the board, I apologize. I discussed it with Clark Patterson and Lee. They didn't seem to think that that was a feasible avenue to do that.
It's not on the map that they sent with their, as something they're considering, or in their letter. They're just talking about the two.
Right.
Chris, do you have any thoughts on this? Okay.
I'll give it to you. I'll email it to both of you.
Yeah, it'd be great, so you and I can look at it.
Yes, absolutely.
I think
You have it? Okay.
if it's the one I'm thinking of, I saw some preliminary work last year before I came back to the village, and I'm contemplating this, that's the plan moving forward.
They are doing a lot of work on that side. They had a $1 million grant from actually federal. The North County Water District had a $1 million grant for that specific interconnect. So that's what they're doing. You're very welcome. All right. And one more thing, and I just want to put it out there, something that Ryan and I discussed a little bit this morning and a lot over the past few weeks. We have to start thinking about the relationship that our fire department and the transports are going to have with the hospital, the new hospital. There are a few options there, and none of them is perfect. But, for example, if we're going to be involved more than we are now with their inter-facility transports, or not. I mean, that's going to be the dilemma. And both of these sides have pros and cons, obviously. But I just want to put it out there that this is going to be something we have to consider very seriously. Correct?
Ryan, you're talking probably something like the certificate of need when they're in your district, is what you're looking at.
Yeah, we have a certificate of need that covers the village of Fredonia Town of Pomfret. And then anything that comes into or out of the hospital, we could take care of. But it takes manpower to do that.
And that's the main
Efficiently,
investment.
and not taking away from the emergency service that we provide to our citizens here.
Would you kind of be looking at an ambulance corps of sorts?
Possibly. We do have, when we created the 2014, they actually created an EMS division of the village. It's its own department.
So an EMS division.
I mean, the way the department is right now, we cannot take up all the extra transports and at the same time be responsible covering the village and the town. So either we have to stay where we are and not have the actual transport, or we're going to have to invest some serious funds towards preparing the department for transports.
Right,
It's
there-
not an easy decision, but it's,
There'd be costs incurred in that, but the revenues in inter-hospital transports are where the, like, commercial ambulances make their money, correct? So
Exactly.
that would
exactly.
offset it quite.
The revenues are in the transporting over the road, the take-homes, the inter-facility transports. The commercial ambulance service up here is suffering with manpower issues, and we have to remember that 3 of our neighboring communities do not have an ambulance at all to do anything with.
Speaking of that, I know we've been doing a lot of mutual aid calls to neighboring communities that usually rely on the commercial service. I know I've spoken to you personally about maybe contracts with these municipalities, but if we utilize all our manpower, not all our manpower, but a good portion of our manpower a lot of the time out of the district, that's not good for our taxpayers.
No, we gotta remember, we need to keep in place here to serve our community first, and then anything else is additional, but, you know, to serve our community, we're getting into manpower shortages. We missed a few calls recently that have been covered by other agencies because of being out on calls in our district. The commercial service, I don't want to say commercial service, the call volume across the county has gone up. I'll use like City of Jamestown, for example, they're relying on outside agencies coming in quite a bit to do their transporting as well because there's not
Mutual aid departments? Oh, wow.
But that's another problem, because as we discussed, it's very difficult to find new firefighters that will be trained, and then there is not too many training sessions coming up, and then it's even more difficult to retain these people. So it's kind of a big problem, and you see the transports, and there is a lot of money there, but at the same time, it's a big problem manning this department.
For Manning, yeah, for mutual aid, it's interesting with your EMS portion of mutual aid, because mutual aid kinds of means that, like with the fire, when you have fires, your fire trucks go from, both communities have fire trucks, and they come to help each other in need of case of
Not all
build
the
structure
time,
fire.
though. Sometimes it's
when-
very.
but the thing is many of our surrounding communities don't have EMS at all. And so we're there's no mutual, right, there's no mutual agreement on EMS because we're
No, but
helping them with the EMS, and we have this growing demand on our employee portion of our, of the, holding that department up so that we can provide that service. But we're not getting anything back in return.
Well,
on that.
we get something back if we have a big structural fire.
Structural fire, this is correct.
Which is not very, totally uncommon. We had one last year, and
Right.
thank God there were people
Thankfully,
from
yes.
other departments, like the city of Dunkirk, who, called people on overtime, and they came to help.
right.
So, yes, at some point, maybe you provide transport, and they can only provide fire, but it's a very crucial thing that they provide if we need it.
Correct.
So that's.
Right, is it, but I guess how far is the demand, the balance of demand, I guess, though? It's a tough situation. You don't wanna say, no, we don't wanna have this mutual aid, of course not. But the demand is becoming higher on the village for the EMS portion.
I just want to put it out there so everybody can start thinking about it. We have about 20 months to come up with a plan and put it in some kind of action. So anybody else has anything else for discussion?
I got just a quick question for the department heads. Do we have any policies in place for having our vehicles leave our jurisdiction for personal use? And I'm throwing this out to all you guys. There's been 2 occasions now I've found Fredonia vehicles, village-owned vehicles, in the town of Dunkirk, doing personal business. I'm not pointing out any specific department, I'm not pointing out any specific employees. I just want to know, do we have a policy in place that protects our equipment when it leaves our jurisdiction?
My stance has always been in Dunkirk and Fredonia, that if I'm not told that they're going, like, many times we'll run to Service Hardware or Napa. As always, I have to have that cleared to me so I can answer a question like that knowledgeably. If people are out there doing personal business that I'm not aware of, or that they shouldn't be doing personal business, if people are out there with a village vehicle without permission for whatever reason, then I'm totally against
But do we
that.
have a policy in place?
I have not seen a policy in place. Unless there's something I'm missing, it was there before I got here.
Do we have a village policy, do you know?
I am unaware of that. We can look into it, though.
There's an old, in the station, I have a vehicle usage policy for the village. It's yellow.
It's been around for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, if we have a policy in place, all I'm asking is to maybe you should review with our employees this policy that we may have in place for just these instances.
I've already had several discussions. Prior to this even coming up, it's a matter of normal communication with you guys, because I have my own personal beliefs as well as professional beliefs. I mean, I'm not shy about talking about these things, obviously. If it's something the board wants to formalize into a, uniform policy, fine.
Yeah, I was just curious. I don't know. I mean, I know companies have policies. I know I have a policy when I had my businesses. And again, there's certain rules and regulations. But, again, I'm not the only one has witnessed our vehicles out of our jurisdiction for private use.
Dunkirk's there a lot of times. I know why they're here, they're doing business.
Sure, and I understand. If you gotta go get a part out of town or
It's not
something in that way.
uncommon. It's kind of like human nature when you see a vehicle from different municipalities in an area that's not where they're from. Sometimes, it just catches your eye. But, getting to your point, I will see if there is something. I haven't come across any yet.
I'll send out a copy of the thing.
Yeah.
Just an open discussion. Like I said, it's been brought to my attention and I've witnessed it myself. So I just wanted to bring it out and just see.
For the most part, I mean, most employees should know that it's illegal to be conducting business, in a vehicle outside of the village, plus on village time. So I would hope that,
Well, I also know that there's probably 9+ places to buy a cup of coffee in the village limits. Just an example. And I know some of the businesses in the village would love to see our village employees patronizing our own businesses.
Assuming we're just talking about coffee.
Just
A lot
talking
of
about
businesses deserve our
We're talking about
business,
coffee, yeah,
I feel.
that's all.
sometimes,
Great.
if you go down Central Avenue, if we're out doing inspections and you go down Central Avenue, then you gotta shoot over to Route 20, you are going out of the district, to get to that point, instead of turning around and going all the way up and then down 20.
Well, no, that's fine. If you're traveling
So-
through, I understand. But when you're,
Yeah.
I've had a couple of calls and I've seen some myself, seeing company or village vehicles out of our district for that reason. That's all. Just asking. Generic question.
Personal note, that's why I don't drive a village vehicle.
Not a big deal.
Don't want any confusion or anything else.
No, I just want you to review that. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. Anything else?
First answer, if you want to answer that question from the electrical board.
Yes, I've
Hey.
seen him, yes. We didn't get to you yet. Hello, thank you for coming. So, does anybody have any questions? Oh, we should ask that about the date. Yeah, it was one question, actually.
Sorry,
About the
because I
new
just
code.
sent you an email when they were talking about, let me grab this section real quick.
Terribly sorry for being late.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
Do you want the section right here?
Yeah, can you show it?
It's here.
Chris, can you come here a second? Probably be easier just to show it to you rather than ask. All right. Question came up.
Should be 2012.
Okay.
Okay. So that's, see, simple. That was it. That was the big question.
Okay.
Typo.
Sure.
Okay, so nobody else has anything? All right. Just for a second until Jim comes in. And let's really start. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order. at the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia duly called and held on the 18th day of March 2019 at 7:30 p.m. in the Trustees Room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law.
Whereas members of this board present at this meeting have read the official minutes of the Board of Trustees regular meeting of March 4th, 2019. Now therefore be it resolved that this board approves the minutes as entered into the official minutes, and be it further resolved that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Now we have a presentation from DFT. Mr. Maiden, come on in, please. Thank you very much for coming.
No, currently I'm a older person, I don't know. DFT has donated a cost for a new camera that we purchased. This allows us to do some new things in the village on the access station, allows us to run some of our characters on the bottom for games, and also during your sessions when you go downstairs, we're able to put some stuff on there. In return, we also are going to run some, DF Telephone's going to underwrite some of our programming in process that donation. So I wanted to present, have them present the camera.
I think it's too, it's important that you guys know that Chip brought this idea to me, and I thought it was a great idea. We were able to use, we have a fund at the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation called the DFT Community Betterment Fund, and that's where the funds are being drawn from that we contribute into every year. And they're raised in, either we contribute it or it's contributed through our charity golf tournament that we do every year. So we're really pleased to be able to do this for the village. I'm hoping you're going to get some really good action on this 4K camera at the Hillbillies games.
Kidding Christmas over here.
I hope you do a really good job, and here you are, and congratulations, and thank you.
We'll get a picture.
Don't drop it.
He's the representative.
Yeah, I'm Caitlin, I'm on the Cable Advisory Board Committee. I'd like to thank you very much for your generosity. We appreciate it. It's much needed, and Chip is gonna really put that to work.
Yes, it is.
Why don't we come over here, you guys?
Okay.
If that's okay.
I'm sorry,
Mary, you want to come up too?
That's proper.
Mary, do you want to come up or too?
Hi, Dan.
I'm just stand up here.
Or? Sit right there if you want.
No, you're good.
That there.
It's okay.
Here, I'll,
You there?
we'll be handing it over.
Okay, sounds
Turn it
great.
around so it looks good. Oh, okay, that'll work.
Yeah, how's that?
Yeah, let's get a snapshot.
Okay.
All right.
Got it?
Thanks a lot.
You're helping our budget immensely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
For the radio station.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get your,
We'll just turn it the other way for the radio
There we go.
station.
Man, I'm definitely the mic might be in the way.
All right.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Great.
Right.
Okay.
So people can hear it.
Sorry.
It's their Facebook.
Hold on the flash.
Yeah,
It's like,
and then you'll be able to read. It's like spots.
yep.
Good job, great.
This portion of the meeting is for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak, once recognized, shall stand and state their name and address. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes if speaking for themselves, or 5 minutes if speaking on behalf of a group. I will ask the speakers to refrain from remarks that are in poor taste, slanderous, or not germane to any action taken or contemplated by the board.
Not many people, from the public today. And so we close the public portion. Thank you, anyway. For my report, I have a couple of things. First of all, last week, there was a dedication of a memorial highway, part of Route 20, to Sergeant Jonathan Gollint, who was killed in Afghanistan by a suicide bomber. And regrettably, I wasn't able to be there. That was a very, very busy day, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the fact that that was done. I thank Senator Young and Assemblyman Goodell for their initiative to do something like that. And as Senator Young said, this is going to be a reminder for all of us when we drive or walk or pass through that to remember the actual, how much freedom actually cost. So we will never be able to say thank you to people like that, to young people like that who go across the globe to serve our country. I just have to say that we are very, very thankful in our hearts. I have a proclamation that will go to the sergeant's family, and that's all I have to say, except I appreciate that the Board of Trustees were there, so the village was represented. That's number one. Number two, I want to talk about the hospital a little bit again, and actually not actually about the hospital, but two things. There is a need for a second exit, and I do support that need. We need to have a second exit, either an emergency, as the county planning board has suggested, or a regular exit to Route 60. So I do ask the board of the hospital to look very well into that. I understand there are there is consideration and there are some conversations that they are engaging in right now. So I just want to express my support to that. And the second thing, I know that sidewalks inside the property of the hospital are cost prohibitive. I know it's very difficult to accomplish. However, at the same time, the grounds of the hospital have to be pedestrian friendly. This is what a hospital is all about. So I will ask again the board of Brooks Hospital and the engineers to look very much into that and make sure that the grounds of the hospital, of the new hospital, are actually pedestrian friendly. And that's my report. Trustee Christina.
Nothing to report at this time.
Trustee Linden.
Nothing today.
Trustee Essek.
Just one brief thing. The mayor mentioned the dedication ceremony for Sergeant Jonathan Goldnuts. I just want to say it was an honor to be there. He gave the ultimate sacrifice to his country. And like the mayor said, everybody traveling Route 20 now will be aware of that. So it's just it's appreciative to have been part of that. So.
Thank you. Trustee Bridge.
I don't have anything to report tonight, thank you.
Trustee Barnes.
I have no comments.
All right, so go forward. Reports.
2019. Vehicle and traffic cases closed, 94. Criminal cases closed, 18. Village ordinances, 4, for a total of 116 cases. Total fines, surcharges, and parking tickets, $11,826. That's all. I'm sorry, that's
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Correspondence was received from Fredonia Rotary Club requesting permission to pick up trash on Sundays on a regular basis, beginning Sunday, March the 17th, 2019. And the trash will be properly disposed of. We got the correspondence, and we want to thank the volunteers, the Rotary Club, for doing this for the Village of Fredonia. Thank you so very much. Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to add Troy Hobbs to the active roles.
Be it resolved that the name of Troy Hobbs, 763 Park Avenue, Dunkirk, is hereby added to the active roles of the JS Hook and Ladder Company effective immediately.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Be it resolved that a special meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia be held on Monday, March 25th, 2019,
At 6:30.
at 6:30 PM to present the mayor's tentative village budget and to consider any other business that may come before this board.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia desires to override the property tax cap if the village board determines it necessary to do so, to adopt a proper and sustainable budget of the Village of Fredonia for its coming fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2019, which tax cap is set forth in Section 3-C of the General Municipal Law, and whereas proposed local law number 1 of 2019 of the Village of Fredonia in its final form is now upon the desk of the members of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, which is entitled a local law authorizing a property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, for the village fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2019. Now therefore be it, I don't have to read the whole thing, do I? Is it?
He's not going to do the whole thing, right? Okay.
No, this does not get tabled. This is a motion for
Yeah, this is most public
a
hearing.
public hearing.
That's a public hearing. So now therefore, don't
Do you want me to read the whole thing all the way through, or do you just at the bottom? Because it would be available.
No, that's fine, here.
Okay. Okay, now therefore be it resolved that the public hearing be held before this Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia on first day of April 2019 at 7:30 PM at the Trustees Room, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, to consider the question of the enactment of said proposed local law. And be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to cause notice of said public hearing on said proposed local law to be published in the Observer as required by law.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
One question, the time, was that one of the ones where we said 6:45 instead of the
No.
7:30?
No,
No,
that's-
okay.
It's a
Then-
regular, it's at the regular meeting at
okay,
7:30.
I'm sorry, okay, then yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Whereas the Village of Fredonia has immediate need for the services of a chief water treatment plant operator, now therefore be it resolved that Christopher Surma is hereby appointed to the position of provisional chief water treatment plant operator, and be it further resolved that Christopher Surma is, be compensated at a rate of $40,000, or see if, I'm sorry, $40,000 per hour. I'm sorry, $40 per hour. That would have been nice.
It'll make
$40
it-
per hour without health insurance benefits. That would have been nice.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
One quick question, Chris, do you know your start date immediately, or is there a particular start date on this?
April 1st. It should be here, April 1st. Yep.
As of April
Can I
1st.
amend that to state that? And then,
Yes.
yes? Thank you.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Welcome aboard.
Do we all, do we all see, do we all vote on that?
Yep.
Be it resolved by the Village Board of the Village of Fredonia as follows. Chapter 265, taxi cab and liveries is hereby
Adopted.
adopted. Are we
It's
tabling?
not adopted, it's been gonna be tabled.
Okay.
Okay. For this one, okay, I make a motion to table the local law for a public hearing on April 1st at 6:45 PM.
Second the motion to table?
Second motion.
I'll second the motion.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge, Essek.
Yes.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Barris.
Aye.
Was that last part of the resolution just verbally added? Or is it part of the written resolution here? It would be tabled. I'm just trying to find where we're at.
Here.
No, it's just,
It's
On the note they gave you.
yes, that's just a motion to table. Instead of a motion to adopt.
Right.
That's right.
Be resolved that Chapter 129 Electrical Standards is hereby amended as follows. Delete.
No.
You don't want me to go
Jim.
through?
You don't need to.
No, I'm making at this time, I'd like to make a motion to table the local law for a public hearing on April 1st at 6:45 PM.
I'll second the motion.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Barris.
Aye.
There we go.
Be it resolved that Alexander Hallberg of 3 Delaware Street, Lakewood, New York, is hereby appointed as probationary full-time firefighter medic with the Village of Fredonia Fire Department, subject to the probationary period of 18 months and subject to all civil service rules and regulations at a rate of $23.14 per hour, effective April 1st, 2019.
I second the resolution.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Barris.
Aye.
Thank
Move that
you.
we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Barris.
Aye.